I've been having lots of fun bleaching cardstock this week, and one thing I decided to try was bleaching a piece of Kraft cardstock. I was pleasantly surprised by the results, and I wanted to show you how nice that can look today on Stamp TV. And I also want to show you a fun little way to attach a button to any card project. Let me show you the tools and products you need to do this technique. First, you're going to need some stamps, and I'm using the stamp set Life's a Beach. And I decided, because I was working with Kraft cardstock, to see what kind of result I could get with the bleach to make it almost look a little bit sandy. So this was the perfect set to use. Then you're going to need some cardstock, and the cardstock that I'm using here is the Gina Designs Pure Luxury Kraft cardstock. I'm also going to use a couple other pieces of Gina Designs cardstock for my little embellishment with the button that I want to show you, and that is, again, some Kraft, some of our Red Hot, and some Ivory cardstock. Then for the technique, you're going to need an Embossing Magic anti-static pad to remove static from the surface of your cardstock, and also any oils or debris that might be on the cardstock. This way, your embossing powder will only stick where you want it. You're also going to need some embossing powder, and for this project I'm using the Ranger Super Fine Detail Black powder. You're also going to need some embossing ink, and here I have a Versamark pad. This is my favorite embossing ink, so I'll be using that today. For the embellishment, and it's all part of the greeting part of my card project, you're going to need some black ink, so I'm using the Memento Tuxedo Black. I also have a button and one of the greetings from the Life's a Beach stamp set, and then I have a little bit of red baker's twine. I'm also going to use some scissors, and I'm using my Cutter Bee scissors today, and then you're also going to need some regular old household Scotch tape. I'm also going to need some sort of paintbrush or water brush to apply the bleach that I'm going to use for this technique. So I'm using my Niji water brush. And you don't want to put the bleach inside the canister part of the water brush, because that can get dry and brittle after a while. Just use the tip of the brush, dipping it into the bleach, and then washing it with warm soapy water when you're done. And I'm using a little bit of the Sakura Clear Star glitter pen just to add a little shimmer to my beachy scene. So let's begin by embossing the little sand castle from the Life's a Beach stamp set. So I'll start by rubbing some of this anti-static pad over this piece of Kraft cardstock. And then, using the Versamark ink, I'm going to ink up that little sandcastle stamp. This is a perfect card because I have a friend who just bought a new house, so I'm going to send this card off to them in celebration of them beginning to build their dreams. Alright, so now I'm stamping that. Now, Kraft is a little harder to see the Versamark on, but it is there, so if you can't see it, I promise you, it's there. So now I'm going to take an index card and a little bit of black embossing powder, and I'm going to sprinkle that over my image. And there I have that cute little sandcastle, and you'll see there's little shells and little sandy marks there. So you do want to make sure that when you're embossing an image like this that you're using a fine detail powder, because you want all that detail to stay true to the design once you heat the embossing powder. If you use a regular embossing powder, they tend to swell up more once they're heated, and then you lose a lot of the detail. So now I'm going to heat this with my embossing tool. I'm using the Marvy heat tool, and as soon as this turns shiny, it will be done. I don't want to overheat it, because then it will just get burnt, and that's going to kind of make it harder to bleach. So there is my little sandcastle. Now, here is my bleach, and this is just regular old Clorox household bleach, and my Niji water brush. And I'm going to begin by just coloring this in as if I was coloring it with a regular old marker. Now with the Kraft cardstock, it doesn't come up quite as quickly as it does on other cardstocks, and you will have to help it along a little bit with your heat tool. In fact, when it starts to come up, it gets a little bit of a pink tone to it, which is very pretty if that's the look you're going for. But since we want it to be a little bit brighter and a little bit whiter, we're going to help it along with the heat tool. One thing I will recommend, whenever you're doing a bleaching project, make sure that you're using new bleach. Bleach actually has a lifespan and it will get old. And you'll find that when you use brand new bleach, that your colors come up much brighter and more vibrant. And if you're like me and you don't really bleach a lot of clothing, because I don't really like to use bleach on my clothes, I just use hot water, my bleach tends to get old. So every once in a while I have to just throw it out and get new. And here I'm just going to rub a couple little lines here over this sandy area, like that. And you can already see the castle is starting to lighten up. But I'm going to help it along by using the heat tool, and I'm going to use it from behind because I don't want to burn that embossing powder, but I do want the bleach to get warm. So if I use the heat tool on the back, I'm less apt to burn the powder, but you'll still get the effect. See how much whiter that is now? So there is my finished little castle. Now I want to add a little bit of shimmer to that, so I'm going to grab this Sakura Stardust pen and I'm going to just outline the inside of the castle with some sparkle. And you should be able to see a little bit of that. See that shine that you're getting there? So if you do that all along the inside lines of the castle, it will sparkle in the sunshine or in most household lighting, and it gives it a little bit of extra zing when the recipient opens the card and they see that pretty sandcastle shimmering in the light. And just around the doorway. And also, you can color in your shells with the Sakura pen to make them shimmer. And you can add some squiggly lines onto the sand just to give that a little bit of extra shimmer too. And you can see now my whole castle is a little bit shimmery, and if you work with a Sakura pen at home, you know how sparkly that can be. So there's a little bit of sparkle there. Now my next step for this project is going to be to create a greeting. And like I said, because this is going to a friend of mine who is purchasing a home, I am going to use the greeting from the Life's a Beach stamp set that says, "Build Your Dreams." I thought that would be so cute with that little sandcastle. So I'm going to ink that up using some of this black Memento ink. This is the Tuxedo Black. And I'm going to stamp that toward the bottom of this piece of cardstock. There we go. So now, and if you see that that looks a little bit sparse there in certain areas, that's part of the font. It's supposed to look like a building font and concrete and just very rugged. So that's part of the font. I'm going to attach this to this red piece of cardstock with a little bit of mono adhesive. And then I'm going to use the top part of this, well, that wasn't very straight. I'm going to use the top part of this to add a button embellishment right there. But I want to show you a fun way to add an embellishment. Rather than just tying a little knot around that button, get a little bit of baker's twine, and you don't have to use the red. You can use any color you want, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate it anyway, and I'm just going to use the white parts of this. Of course, you can use the red, or you can save the red for another project. But you can separate your baker's twine to get it nice and thin and more of a monochromatic look if you don't want the mixed look. So that's what I'm going to do here. And I need 2 pieces of baker's twine. This is probably way more than I need, but I want to make sure that I have enough and I don't have to stop while I'm showing you this technique. So what you're going to do is make sure that you have a nice sharp edge, and sometimes what I'll do is I'll cut the baker's twine on a little bit of an angle, and that makes a little tiny point on the edge of that. It makes it easier to feed through the button. So I'm going to come in one side of the button, and I'm going to go back down the other side of the button, like that. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, again getting a nice sharp edge so it's easy to feed through. And I'm going to come in one side of the button, one hole, and out the other hole. So now I have this fun little button here that I'm going to turn over. I'm going to position it where I want it, and then I'm going to turn that whole thing over and tie it in the back. Now don't worry about having to tie a whole knot or a bow. Just make sure that you have it where you want it, and then I'm going to peek on the other side. Yep, it's still where I want it. Okay. Now you're going to hold that tight, and at the same time you're going to grab some Scotch tape and rip a little piece off, and while that's being held down tight, you're going to tape it like that. And then on this side, you can spread these little threads out so that they're coming in at angles like that. And then just cut away that excess on the back. Now I want to take this whole panel and I want to adhere it onto some ivory cardstock. But that is a little bulky back there. You can see there's a lot of bulk, so that's not going to lay very flat. So the easiest way to do that is to take some 1/4 inch pop dots and put a pop dot up on each corner, and I like to press the pop dot onto that little piece of baker's twine, and that just helps keep it in place a little bit more. You could put another one down there if you want, but I think just having one kind of secured really does help. I'll remove these little tabs, and I will position this little embellishment right onto this piece of ivory cardstock. And you can see that makes a nice little greeting embellishment for my card, and that little bit of raised up look gives it a little bit more dimension and makes the project just a little bit more interesting. So let me show you my finished card project. Here's a card I made using that same little embellishment, the Build Your Dreams, and the cute little sandcastle with a little bit of glitter. And I used a Cuttlebug folder for the back here. You can use all different kinds of Cuttlebug folders. The name escapes me right now, but I will be adding the name to the bottom of the screen. So if you're watching this on Stamp TV, right under the screen you'll see the name of this Cuttlebug folder. And with that little bit of glitter in the sandcastle and that cute little embellishment, the whole panel was just mounted on some red hot cardstock and then added to an ivory card base. And there is a quick and easy finished card project for my friend who's building her dreams. Bleaching cardstock produces spectacular results on all different colors. And little accents like this button add the perfect finishing touch to any card project or scrapbook project too.